and just go for it. So this is our first attempt.
All right, so I'm going to be interviewing Kaity. So first off, Kaity, who are you?
Okay. I'm Kaity Thompson. I would identify myself as a UNH graduate in environmental science, and I grew up in New Hampshire. So now I work as the part-time staff organizer for 350 New Hampshire, and I'm currently also a fellow for 350 Action in New Hampshire, which is a political side of things.
Okay. So what brought you to 350 New Hampshire?
So 350 New Hampshire is something that, so I'm gonna back up a little bit and tell a little bit of my story just so that I can kind of get to exactly how I found 350 New Hampshire. So when I graduated from high school, I moved down to New York City to study modern and postmodern dance. And it was while I was down there that I came to realize just how important the environment was, like the clean air, clean water, walking outside and being able to hear the birds chirping, being able to honestly just see green spaces. And when I would come home to New Hampshire, I would take the bus to Boston and then a bus up to New Hampshire. And the moment I got off the bus here, it was just like that first breath of air was just so different. It was just like completely different. So it was those first few times that I came home that I really realized how lucky I was growing up in New Hampshire and how much I had taken advantage of it, or taken it for granted, I mean. And so I ended up transferring to the University of New Hampshire to study environmental science. But while I was doing that, I learned about like climate change and the impacts of climate change, and decided that this needed more than just working on the science behind it and understanding that. It really took action. So I ended up working with the Student Environmental Action Coalition at the University of New Hampshire. And it was through my work with them that I found the community group 350 New Hampshire, who was consistently supporting the student efforts and helping us get out press releases and gathering the community to come with us. And so I also got the opportunity to start engaging with them and going to their meetings and their actions, especially around stopping the tar sands pipeline from coming through New Hampshire. So that's how I got involved. And then I ended up graduating and got lucky enough to get a job with them. So it kind of is a long stretch, but it was really through that.
All right. So you kind of answered my next question, which is what pushed you into activism?
So, well, yes and no, I would say, because so it was like breathing in that fresh air and stuff, but that was really kind of my catalyst towards coming to the University of New Hampshire and doing that work. And while it was finding out about the impacts of climate change that pushed me to climate justice organizing, I really came to understand that theory of change through my work, or not through my work, but through observing Occupy Wall Street. I was a freshman in college when Occupy Wall Street happened, and that was just huge and eye-opening and amazing to me. So I found out that, the people can really create a difference, and that if we can work together, we can really make a splash, and that the media will listen and the world will listen, and that there is a need for people to raise up their voices against bigger corporations and the impacts that they're having on our government and on communities. So that's what kind of got me into this whole social justice platform. And then it was really kind of that fresh air and fresh water thing that led me more towards climate justice as my main focus in organizing.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So what is it about climate change that bothers you the most? Like, what part of it?
The thing that bothers me the most about climate change is the fact that we have the capability to do something about it, and we're not. Stanford University professor just came out with a plan for the United States that would keep us below the 2 degrees warming by 2050, showing that it's economically and technologically feasible for the University of New Hampshire, for the United States. And so I think that is a really important tool to be using. And, you know, actually via 350 Action, one of the other fellows, John Lee, just came out with a blog post called The New Kind of Climate Denial and Who Gets to Play a Part. And it's about our politicians and how some of them are now saying that they believe in the science behind climate, but that they're still denying or still unwilling to listen to the science that says, and here's what we can do about it. And here's how we can keep a safe planet. You know, if we need to keep 80% of fossil fuels in the ground to stay below 2 degrees Celsius by 2050, we need to radically change the way that we're working. So I think that's the thing that most bothers me, is the fact that our legislation and also us as people like aren't quite ready or prepared to take the steps that are necessary to do that. And so part of what I want to do is help make that more feasible, help make that more possible, and also help put the pressure to create that just transition quicker.
Okay. So let's see. What is your
Scrolling. Questions?
what is your theory of change?
My theory of change in some ways comes out of the Occupy movement and some of what I've seen as when I was a student in divestment, and as I've been organizing with more community members and learning from people nationally who are organizing, that really we're going to make change through a people's movement that calls for revolution and calls for just transition. And so I'm still really kind of learning exactly what it is that I believe in, but I know that what I want to see is I want to see the people being able to take charge and take action around the things that they care about, like climate, and create the world that we want to see, like a just and stable future, but do that by without impacting communities that are already like disproportionately affected by things like climate change, like poor communities and communities of color. And also, I really think like it is through kind of the movement that I saw personally in Occupy of like street art and people getting out there and not letting their voices not be heard. But I also think it's about creating a structure behind that and creating asks. I think that it is possible within our current political system to shift that in some ways, to create some kinds of political revolution, but that we have the opportunity with the people coming together to make the switch. Yeah, so I'd say it's kind of one of those like David and Goliath theories of like the people can come up together and kind of take down what big companies, like the big fossil fuel companies, are doing and the lobbying they're doing.
That's great.
Thanks.
So where does 350 New Hampshire play into all this?
Well, I am a lover of the phrase think globally, act locally. And I think that 350 New Hampshire is an opportunity to do both of those things, as well as sometimes acting nationally and acting globally. So 350 New Hampshire, well, actually that's kind of one of the reasons. And I'll expand on that in a second. But the second reason that I think honestly is more powerful, like to me personally, is the fact that 350 New Hampshire is unique because it is run by community members for community members. It's not an organization that is coming in and kind of asking things. Like we are allowed to and do come up with all of our own campaign strategies and ideas. And we are also lucky enough to have this national organization, 350.org, that we can plug into and find tools from or attach to a national campaign. Like when we sent I think it was 4 buses to the People's Climate March in Times Square. So on that first part, it's, and I forgot what I said. It's
The think globally, act locally.
yeah. So it's like it's an opportunity to take. There are a lot of us who believe that we need to do something about climate, and it's very easy. I know it was for me when I first learned about these issues. 350 parts per million, and I'm only in the state of New Hampshire, and I'm only in the town of Durham. What can I do that's really going to keep us below that? And the answer is, changing the climate or changing the culture of climate in New Hampshire and in the town that I'm living in, and creating a culture of activism where the work that groups are doing can inspire even more people to continue to act, or more people to vote with climate and climate justice in mind. So I think it gives us an opportunity to really create change here, and that you have to kind of create a good amount of local change, whether that's creating the culture of activism within people and getting them thinking, okay, yes, I can make a difference. Yes, if we stand together, we can create a platform for ourselves, and that will make a difference. And then, wow, I'm just losing my train of thought all over the place. But that we can use that, and we can show, New Hampshire is one space, but we have other places in the United States and also globally that we can plug into a network and make a difference. And then kind of on that second part of it being by communities is the fact that we are the people on the ground. And so that gives us an opportunity to really decide what matters to us and not have to follow anyone else's narrative. We're allowed to follow a narrative that says, like, we are community members of the Granite State, and these are the things that we care about the most right now, and we feel like we can make an impact on. And then, that can change in any moment. If one of our things goes through, like if we're able to stop the natural gas pipeline, we can pick up something else in the area without having to kind of wait through that bureaucratic, okay, like what's the next thing that we're doing, or do we have to go with what national says, those kinds of things. So I really like that and this word I've been hearing a lot, but that we're grassroots.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of it. Long-winded, and I lost myself a couple of times, but that's
all right.
it.
All right, we're gonna be making more of these videos to interview some of the organizers at 350 New Hampshire, so our members can get to know us and what we're all about. So thank you, Katie.
Thank you.